funny because people, once social media became so prevalent, people said, well, do you think people can still create those relationships even when, online and with, I said, the people remember, all things being equal, people don't do business with and refer business to those computers they know,
Right.
like, and trust. It's the human being sitting in front of that computer.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand.
Can you give your way to success? Today, we're talking with the man who not only teaches this concept globally, but he's one of the founders of it. Bob Burg is the co-author, along with John David Mann, of the 4-book The Go-Giver series, which has sold more than 1 million copies and been translated into 30 languages. More importantly, though, his concepts have become a global movement across all walks of life and industries. He's an advocate, supporter, and defender of the free enterprise system, believing that the amount of money one makes is directly proportionate to how many people they serve.
Bob, welcome to Be Bold Branding.
Thank you. What a nice introduction. So great to be with you both. Heard so much about you both from our mutual friend, Jim Rohrbach.
We'd love to give a shout out to Jim for connecting us. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah,
so thank you, Jim, for that. And what an honor it is to have you on our show. As I told you backstage, I read the book nearly a decade ago, and it's on my bookshelf. And then it just sort of came back into our life not too long ago. And then Tonya's read the book, and we're subsequently reading others. So, we want to know a little bit, though, when we get started with a new guest like this, what led you to this space? Can you give us a quick life background of what made Bob Burg to write the Go-Giver series?
Well, thanks. I began as a broadcaster, first in radio doing sports, and then television doing news. I was the late night news guy for a very, very small ABC affiliate in the Midwest. And I wasn't very good at it also. I should have mentioned that part. So I wasn't there very long. I like to say graduated into sales. Now, I didn't know anything about sales. So and apparently neither did the company who I was working for, because the training was pretty much go out and sell. And so I floundered for the first few months. And was very discouraged until I was in a bookstore one day and came across a couple of books on sales, which doesn't sound like a big deal now, but 40 years ago, unless you really knew about this kind of thing, you didn't know about it. So I didn't even know what I was looking for when I went into that bookstore. But I saw 2 books on sales, one from Tom Hopkins, one by Zig Ziglar, 2 of the icons in the sales space. Got the books, and as I like to say, I didn't read them, I devoured them. And I would come home every night after work, and for hours upon hours, I would read, highlight, take notes, underline, study, practice, drill, rehearse. I mean, within a few weeks, my sales really began to go well. And there was really no difference in me from 3 weeks earlier till 3 weeks later, other than I now had a methodology. I had a system. And I personally define a system as the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. The key being predictability. In other words, if it's been proven that by doing A, you can get the desired result of B, then all you need to do is A, and continue to do A, and continue to do A, and eventually you're going to get the desired results of B. So that was encouraging to me. What I really enjoyed, though, was the personal development aspect of sales, because I was taught you've got to get these books like How to Win Friends and Influence People and The Magic of Thinking Big, As a Man Thinketh, The Richest Man in Babylon, The Greatest Salesman in the World, and Psycho-Cybernetics, and all these that worked on your mind, your mindset. And I began to realize that success itself is really an inside job. It manifests itself outwardly, of course, but it begins in here and in here, the head and the heart. And so that was just a joy for me. And I just really got into it, and eventually began to work my way up to sales manager of another company years later, and then began teaching to other companies. Hey, there's a business in here, right? Mm-hmm. So I joined National Speakers Association and learned how to have a speaking business. And that's where things kind of took off. And eventually I wrote a book on referrals. That was my big thing at the time. Endless referrals, network your everyday contacts into sales was the book. And it was about how to cultivate relationships that would cause people to want to do business with you and refer you to others. And it was a how-to book. It was written in the 90s. It was very successful. But I always thought, wouldn't it be great to take the basic principle of it, the premise, if you will, which was all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust, and put that into a story, into a parable, which I always enjoyed reading parables. Well, fortunately, in the early 2000s, I met this brilliant guy named John David Mann, because he was the editor-in-chief of a magazine I was submitting a column for. And John was great. Even back then, he had such a wonderful reputation as a magnificent writer. And he was just a humble, just great guy. And I took the story idea to him, and it went back and forth for a while, but we ended up doing it, which was a good thing. And he was the lead writer, storyteller. And didn't take long to write the book. What took long is getting it published, because we went through a year of 24 rejections through New York publishing houses, until finally the 25th one was the magic one.
Fantastic. I love knowing the background.
I do too. And all the publishing rejections, I think, people used to go through that a lot, and most of the time these days we self-publish, right? It's a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure is.
You don't go through as much rejection if you're the one who says, yes, let's publish that.
Absolutely. Yes. When you're the decision maker, wow, it's easy to get a yes.
It sure is.
Right. I got to ask a question based on that. Right. So now, when you got started in this, we just didn't have the power of the internet as we know it today. And we didn't have the self-publishing as the way we know it today. And we didn't have sales the way we know it today, but the principles have not changed. Do you believe, from your experience out there in the world, that art that you devoured in those old icons like Napoleon Hill and Hopkins and Zig Ziglar and those guys, do you believe it's a dying art, or do you believe there's a resurgence in that? What's your thought of the landscape that we're in these days?
I mean, I think the principles always remain the same. Over time, strategies can adjust, and tactics are new every day. But now the basic principles is it's funny, because people, once social media became so prevalent, people say, well, do you think people can still create those relationships even when online and with? I said, the people remember, all things being equal, people don't do business with and refer business to those computers they know, like, and trust. It's the human being sitting in front of that computer. And you can build a relationship that way. Now, of course, it's not an either or, it's an and we should be doing it both ways. But yeah, the principles never change. And, and nowadays more than ever, people need branding authorities, personal branding authorities, such as the two of you, because there's so much noise. I mean, the good news is anyone can publish, right? The bad news is anyone can publish.
Right.
And so, so you've got a whole lot of people out there. So now it's more important than ever to hook up with people like yourselves who can actually walk us through the process, because that's the biggest thing of all. The easiest part of writing a book is writing a book. Not that that's easy, but it's the easiest part if you want to have a successful book.
That is so true.
Yeah. The real work really begins at that point. And whether you go with a traditional publishing house or you're publishing it yourself through your own company, you're the one that's going to have to do the legwork. You're going to have to do the work. And so you've got to be able to position yourself in such a way that your target market is attracted both to you and to your message.
Yes.
Oh, Bob, I feel like I've known you for like decades, because our mantra is people don't do business with a logo. They do business with a person.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. Yeah, exactly.
We're kind of saying the same thing. And I'll tell you, I have to thank you for this too, because I look at your statement, all else being equal, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. I've tried hard to teach our clients that all things being equal, we don't want that for you.
Right.
The branding is designed to set you apart, so nothing is equal, right? So that you stand alone on your own merits.
That's the best possible way. Sure.
Yeah.
And I want to be sure the listeners know that know, like, and trust is Bob Burg, right? That you, if you look it up, who said this, then you're credited with that for many years now. But it is something that is passed around a lot in those social media platforms, and it's preached by a lot of people. And I just want the crowd, I want the whole listenership to know that that is Bob Burg, like that he is the one that coined that phrase. And thank you for that, because it is still true, and we just have more vehicles to do that through now if we do it correctly.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Sure.
Yeah. Who would you say was the most influential person in your life growing up? Like, who would you say is
Well, I was very, very fortunate to have a great mom and dad. So, you can't be any luckier, right?
right?
Than that, and my dad is the person who just had a natural type of people skill, and it was really the very fact that he was interested in everyone. And he really had a genuine desire to make other people feel good about themselves.
Mhm.
And so I got to watch that all the time, and so I would, see dad meet people and, once, and the next time they saw him again, he was their best friend, so I got to watch that and witness that. And I got to see my mom and dad, the way they treated people and so forth. So that was a good step up. So I would say they were definitely my guiding force in terms of, in terms of that.
Mhm.
Oh, I love that. So speaking of giving, which is what the Go Giver series is all about, the 4 laws of stratospheric success. What's the greatest gift that you've ever been given?
Well, I guess, aside again from just having parents who loved each other and who loved us, which is like the greatest gift. The greatest gift I've ever been given, I would say, just having friends in my life who just went above and beyond to be my friend and to be there for me, to be loyal and dependable, and just, people who I'd be honored to say are my friends. I mean, I think when it comes down to it, the relationships we have in our lives is, uh, is what it really is all about. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let me
Yeah.
ask you this too, because I have this question a lot. Um, in this world, we're surrounded by the ability to reach so many different people. We talk about social media, now podcasting, all these different ways we have of reaching so many people.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, how many people do you feel like we can really impact or have a relationship with? Is it just crazy delusional to think that we can have a relationship with 50,000 of our followers? Or how do you define that?
Well, it would depend how you define relationship, because do you have a relationship with 50,000 followers? Sure. You don't have a close, tight relationship with 50,000 followers, or, people would have you. But so, I mean, I think there's both the direct and indirect ways we're able to touch people's lives. And that's why, let's say, through having a book that does well, you're in a position to be able to touch more lives than you would have been able to,
Mhm.
had you not. So, the medium, the platform, what have you, is very important, which again is why the ability to have a personal brand that attracts the people to you who should be attracted to you, right? Because not everyone's going to be, and that's okay.
Right.
That's why it's so important. So, how many close friendships do I have? Well, not very many at all that I would consider close friendships. I have a lot of friendships, I think, in relationships that are cordial and nice and good, and I appreciate and very grateful for them. And then there are probably, however many people who have either read my books or been at my events where I've spoken or what have you, that there's that kind of but again, that's very indirect and, not a strong relationship. You can only hope that they may have received something from it that they were able to put into their own lives that was positive.
Oh, great example.
What do you think is, if you had to coin it? This is putting you on the spot a little bit, Bob. What's the greatest gift that you believe you've ever given someone? I know if I could answer it for you, what I would answer.
No, I think it's probably empathy and understanding, because I think when it comes right down to it, that's such a a powerful element of human nature that people want to feel understood. They want to be understood, but they also want to feel understood. And there's a difference. You can have gratitude for someone, but not express it. There's a difference between having gratitude and expressing gratitude, right? And it's the same with being understood. You can understand someone, but if that person doesn't know you understand them, they don't get to have that feeling of being understood.
Right.
And being understood, feeling understood is such a high. So I think, I don't have a lot of natural strengths. I really don't. But one that I do have is a fairly highly developed sense of empathy for others. And I think people know that when they speak with me.
That's great, because I do believe that is the connector, which actually, like in the original Go Giver book, the connector was my favorite by far. Yeah. I remember, first time reading, it's like, oh, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Even though we would all like to be the untold wealthy, sort of puppet master for the whole thing, right? To me, that connector guy is something that I felt like I can do. And
did you guess who the connector was? Did you know who the connector was by the time?
Of course, not the first time I read it. It's when it popped up, I was like, oh, that makes total sense. You know what I mean? Like, no, I wouldn't have guessed it early on in the book or even midway point. I don't think, maybe when it came down to the Friday guest or something, but, and it not being him, but I love that part, because that's actually something that I feel like we can all do, especially in this wide open internet world that we live in. Much like Jim did, introducing us to you, and you being gracious enough to come onto the program. That's a connection that I think is powerful in the world that we live in. So I definitely think that's a principle that people can grab a hold of. In the Go Giver,
and very generous, because we're already the recipients of giving thanks to you, Bob. So I love that.
Like what you're hearing? Hit that subscribe button and learn how you can change how you're seen and charge what you're worth.
Okay, so here's another one for you. If you could choose one thing that you'd like to give more of, what would that be and why?
Probably more time to one of my causes. Yeah. So, it seems like that's something that I have not been able to do as much, and I would like to. So, but as I get older, I'm 66 now, so I'm doing less things that I don't want to do and more things that I want to do. So I suspect that's in the process of changing a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Which cause would that be?
Well, I'm a pretty much a big animal fanatic. So
Furry Friends Adoption, right?
Furry Friends I was on their board of directors, and they're a wonderful organization. I'm now working with a South Florida cat rescue adoption and cat rescue rehabilitation, and then rehoming, as we call it, or fostering and then rehoming. So it's a different organization, but both. My feeling is any organization that is pro animal is a good one.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm a huge animal advocate. We both are. We both love them. Michael likes to tease about them. He says, "Oh, we can send our kids off to college," right? Talking about our dogs, and you know what that means. He's always teasing me with that. He said, "We could send them off to college if they're aggravating you that much."
Yeah, every time they're aggravated, I'm like, they're smart enough to go to college now if you want, But no,
oh yeah, great idea, Mom and Dad, because anything's a great idea.
Right. It's not such a great idea the way he means it.
Tonya's such a softie. She'd pick up any animal anywhere, anytime.
Don't put me in a rescue place.
Please, let's take him.
That's difficult. That's difficult.
It is very difficult. Well, why? What was it that made you such a soft heart toward animals? Did you have animals as you were growing up? And
yeah, we had dogs. Always had dogs. Always had several at a time. We had everything from a 190-pound Great Dane to little Chihuahuas to Doberman Pinschers to always had dogs. So I love all animals. So it's not just, but anywhere I go, and unfortunately, there's a lot of mistreatment of animals everywhere, and certainly the factory farms and dairy farms, the horrendous lives these animals live. And I don't mean to be a downer here, but if people really, really, really understood what goes on at any of these places, they would never, eat anything that's animal or wear an animal or anything. So, again, hate to be a downer here,
Yeah.
but,
No, you're not a
No,
you're
too
not a
long,
downer.
but
As a matter of fact, we have we have all but stopped eating animal meat recently.
good for you. Thank you.
Yeah, we really have, and to me, that it's two things. It's what you just talked about, the mistreatment of animals, and is it really necessary? And it's what it does to your body. I know there have been so much research that has been done on that, and I'm not going to start preaching that.
I
Don't worry.
know, right? I
But
was so reluctant when she started. This has been a process for me because I was meat potatoes, right, growing up in the South.
So was I. We all were. Just
Right. And
Yeah.
so Tanya's like, it'd be healthier if we do this. But she has systematically, Bob, she has introduced good vegetable dishes that satisfied me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, maybe I can. Well, maybe. And so
It's not all or nothing. It's not all or nothing. You start a little bit at a time and you do what you can do. And for the people who are interested in doing something like that, don't get mad at yourself if you have something that just congratulate yourself for taking the steps.
Mhm.
And eventually you get there. And these days there's more and more now vegan foods that really are delicious. I don't know how it used to be, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's you can do it if you want to badly enough. And that's just it's the name of the game.
Well, it goes back to that personal development that you talked about early on, right? And that portion of your career and life, and those step-by-step
Right.
improvements that we make as humans, and it's just part of the entire ecosystem that makes us up, I think. And so hopefully there is a listener out there that grabs a hold of that and says, I've struggled in these areas, I've struggled in my career, and I've struggled with this kind of thing, and then maybe they'll grab that point that you made early on about the personal development being a huge driver in everything that we do, and that's a pursuit that never has to stop.
No, isn't that the great part about it?
That's
right?
the great part
it
about
is.
it.
We evolve as humans. And speaking of evolving, you have the 4 Go Giver books. I have so far read the original, which is, I think you have the expanded version, is the one that I have out that I'm reading, or that I just read. And then I'm reading right now the influencer version of it. So love that one.
Thank you.
And in fact, that one's about a man with a dog food company, an organic dog food company, which, hey, right in line with the conversation. But speaking of evolving, tell us a little bit about this organization or alliance that you founded called the Go Giver Success Alliance.
Yeah. So it's an online mentoring program, if you will, online group mentoring program. So it's a bunch of people from all over, and the biggest part of it is that once a month we meet and we do a teaching from the Go Giver or one of the other books, or one of my other books, and we meet at the virtual Rachel's Famous Coffee House. Remember Rachel's
Yes.
from the book. And and it's a lot of fun and a lot of camaraderie, and people share ideas. There's a lot of connecting with one another, and then there's a lot of resources on the site as well. But we have that monthly we call it Coffee and Conversation with Bob. and we have a real blast with it. So it's a terrific group.
Oh, I love that.
Love it.
And tell us what's next for Bob Burg.
I would say what's next for Bob Burg is is more of the same, because Kathy Tajanel, who's my brilliant business partner, she and I have a number of different areas we work. We have a licensing program called the Certified Go Giver Speaker Program. We have the online mentorship. We have a Go Giver Beyond the Mastermind, which is a very small 8-person maximum 2-day mastermind. And then we've teamed up with Jeff West, who's the co-author of my newest business parable. Again, Jeff was the lead writer and storyteller. This is called Streetwise to Saleswise. We've teamed up with him and a very brilliant marketing strategist by the name of Kim Angeli, and we're holding a Saleswise Live 2024 event in West Palm Beach for salespeople, sales managers, and so forth. So the only thing I'm doing less of, in fact, none of, is I'm not traveling anymore to speak. So any kind of keynotes and so forth I do it right from here, and so forth. So I don't get on the planes anymore. But other than that, what's in store for me is doing the same thing that we're doing now, only building it and taking it more so. And I'll continue to do it while I'm having fun. If I stop having fun, I'll stop doing it.
Another takeaway, no doubt. And hey, thank the Lord for our online abilities these days. I don't want to hear about the good old days, right? We live in the good old days, and technology is our friend. And you can be just as powerful and influential right there, like you said, from the comfort of your home, and still deliver that.
Yeah, the commute is great.
Exactly. Love it.
It is great. I counted 15 steps the last time.
That's not mine too. Yep.
So, Bob, here's a question we always ask everybody that comes on our show. We're both foodies. We did venture into the vegetarian and vegan side of things. And what do you like to cook, first of all?
Do not cook. I love to eat.
Fair enough. What is the dish that you love the most?
Okay, this amazing vegan ham that I've been having lately. And if you ask me the name of it, I can't remember it, but I've been getting it publicly, and it is delicious. I mean, you would just never know the difference. And I put that on one of those hamburger buns with a little bit of A1 sauce. And when I say a little bit, I mean a lot of it. It is so delicious. I've been gobbling those down lately.
All right.
I like it. Well, we have Publix up here in Atlanta, so that's good. We can go look for that and do the same thing. So we like to ask all of our guests that. Bob, you want to tell everybody how they could how you can best be reached and how they could work with you in the future?
Yeah, the best way is just to go to BURG, BURG.com. And pretty much everything's there, including subscribing if you'd like to my daily impact email, which I send out early Monday through Friday to get you started on your day. And it's at burg.com. Having BURG.com is really a sign of old age, because I was able to get that before I even knew what it even meant.
What it even meant.
Yeah.
That's an awesome one, actually. So
it really is.
For those people that can remember back when you could get 4-letter domain names. Yeah.
And your name as a domain name, even
and
better.
Your name on top of that.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I want to leave us saying one more time a big thank you to Jim Rohrbach, who connected us together and gave us the great gift of having the go-giver himself, Bob Burg, on our show today. Bob, you're amazing. Thank you so much for all the wisdom you brought us and all the wisdom that we're learning through your book series.
Thank you both. I appreciate you greatly.
You bet. Ready to change how you're seen and charge what you're worth? If you're not getting enough opportunities to meet with ideal customers, or the prospects you're meeting with just aren't ideal, it's most likely your brand that's holding you back. So if you're a coach, consultant, or expert who is on the rise, you need our ultimate guide to a freedom-based brand. Download it free now at BrandFaceGuide.com.